If you reveal the answer to a quiz question, you want only one of two possible responses, which is, I knew that, or, oh, I didn't know that.
After the success of his series, The Thursday Murder Club, Sunday Times best-selling author and television host Richard Osman has a new book series out today. We Solve Murders brings a new detective duo, a globe-trotting private security officer and a retired father-in-law. It's already been commissioned for a Netflix series, and it comes highly praised by the Times literary critic. And Richard Osman joins us now. Hello, Richard.
Hello. That all sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I tell you
hear me describing it again. That sounds all right.
Yeah, okay. Do you know what? I might buy it. Remind me of the title.
Tell us about it.
It is, so the Thursday Murder Club, it's been going for 4 books now, and I'm giving them a year off. They are definitely coming back. But I wanted to write a book that has that sort of very British wit and warmth, but against a more global backdrop with, private jets and private islands, because for me, I thought that would be funny.
Yep.
And I thought, well, who's it funniest to send around the world? I thought, well, someone who really, really, really doesn't want to go around the world. So you've got this retired cop, Steve, who lives in a lovely, beautiful village in the New Forest.
He's keen to get home for quiz nights, right?
All he wants to do is the pub quiz, play with his cat, hang out with his mates. He's a widower. His life has got smaller and smaller, and he's happy with that. He doesn't want to go anywhere. And I thought, well, how do I get him to go around the world? So I've got this daughter-in-law, Amy, who's a bodyguard to billionaires, and a murderer targets her, and she can only trust one person, and that's Steve. So Steve is suddenly having to fly around the world to help his daughter-in-law, and her client as well, who's the world's best-selling author, if you don't count Lee Child, called Rosie D'Antonio, who's sort of a Jackie Collins type. And the three of them, it was supposed to be a 2-hander, but the second I started writing her, it very quickly became a 3-hander. Mm-hmm. So it's a sort of madcap kind of murderous chase around the world, but again with that, hopefully a lot of wit, a lot of humour, all that kind of Britishness. And it's been, the reaction's been fantastic, because it's obviously a nerve-wracking time.
It's interesting that you describe it that way around, because with the Thursday Murder Club series, it seemed to me, a lot of the joy, a lot of the love was to do with the incongruity of these people being involved in crime. And when you have like a sort of super hot bodyguard and billionaires, it seems to be you're telling a very different sort of story. But from you, it still comes very much through the guy who doesn't want to be there.
Well, exactly that.
Yeah.
It still comes from that. I want to write a sort of funny British novel, and the more far-flung places they go, Dubai and St. Lucia and all around, the funnier it becomes to me, because as you see, the brain and the heart that's writing it is exactly the same, which is, all I really want to write about is Greggs and Twix and stuff like that. But, I get to write about private jets and, billionaires and stuff. And it's just, there's lots of room for, story about, influencers and stuff like that, and murders and all sorts of stuff. But it's great for me to have the same heart of Thursday Murder Club, but on a sort of grand global scale. I think it's a lot of fun.
Do you start with plot, or do you start with characters? Do you start with the characters and wonder where they go, or do you get events?
Always characters.
Right.
Characters. It's never what happens in a book that people remember. It's always why they care what happened in the book. It's always characters. And if people are writing at home at the moment, I never ever think about the plot. I get the characters. I have them talk to each other for a little bit. That's just how I start writing, until one of them says something where I go, oh, who are you? Oh, you're interesting. That's a lot of fun. And then I think, great, I've got that person. And then I throw them into something. And I try and get them to sort of tell me what the plot is, and I try and get, introduce minor characters, and then they become major characters, and that the plot comes through those people, really, because if I'm being surprised, hopefully the reader is being surprised as well. And also I would get bored, I think, if I knew everything that was happening all the way through and was just filling in the gaps.
Do you take your characters, even if in a secret way, I won't tell anyone, from life at all? Or are they people who sort of emerge, formed in your brain?
Yeah, not really. I mean, everyone is from life, of course, because we spend our entire lives walking around talking to people going, oh, well, he was an interesting guy, wasn't he? Or, God, I've never heard someone say that before. So there's always something, but then they have to become their own person. They become an amalgam of all sorts of different things until there's someone who's unrecognisable. So Rosie D'Antonio, I was thinking, I love Jackie Collins, and I love that idea of having 80s money and of, being in 80s Hollywood and just still having that glamour. And I thought that's a fascinating character. But then, of course, as you start getting to know her, she becomes other things, and you start to hear about her backstory, and she becomes someone who isn't Jackie Collins. But often there's a little spark that says, I want something a bit like this. And then, they hopefully take on a life of their own.
Did you have some anxiety moving on from the Thursday Murder Club? I know you're going back to them, but is there a bit of sort of Dylan Goes Electric here for you?
Yes, a little bit. Yes, a little bit. No one has shouted Judas at me in the street yet, but that may well come. Yeah, for the first month or so, I did feel like I was cheating on the characters, my original characters, a bit. But then, yeah, you sort of fall in love with the new bunch, and they both exist in the same universe. They're all. I know that Thursday Murder Club just having a rest for a year while this is going on. So the moment I realised that, and the moment I knew I was going back to them, I was just, and that's. For me, honestly, it's the idea of introducing readers to a new world and to these new characters, and knowing that it's out today and people are going to start talking to me about it today because people read these so quickly. That's a thrill because they've only existed in my head for a year, and now I get to talk to everyone about them, and I know people have their favourites, and I know people want characters to come back or not come back, and that's the joy of the thing.
I'm going to be at the Bloody Scotland Festival in Stirling tomorrow, talking about my own novel, which alas has not yet been optioned for Netflix. Although fingers crossed.
Come on, man.
What's the joy of crime? Why do readers like crime? I'll ask you why writers like crime in a minute, but readers, what do you think the thing is there?
I think that we live in a world of intractable problems, right? We live in a world where there's all these problems in the world, and we in our heart, all we ever want to do is untangle a knot.
So it's about the solving rather than the horror.
I think it is. Well, I think it's about knowing that it is going to be solved. I think it's being shown something that's impossible and then told, oh no, it's fine, we sorted it all out in the end. I think there's something very calming about that in a world, as I say, where culturally we're constantly being shown things where you think, I can't see a way out of this. This is just going to go wrong, and it's going to go on forever. Having a kind of discrete, solvable issue, I think people find very seductive.
That's really interesting because a lot of people sort of seem to think of the cozy crime genre as sort of like an oxymoron almost, but it's sort of, but no, not at all. I get that. And for a writer, there's something about forcing a character. Or is it just about forcing a character into circumstances that they can't control and seeing how they respond?
Well, I think, it's interesting. I've always loved my creativity in a box. I always have done. I like doing formats. I think an audience likes to have an idea of where they are. I think that's what they like. And it's no coincidence that crime fiction is some of the greatest fiction that's come out of Britain in the last 20 years, because actually, given that you have these tent pegs that, we have a crime, at the end it's going to be solved one way or another, or not solved, and that's the end of the story. But we have those tent pegs, and we can take people on any journey we want to. You can tell any story about Britain that you want to. I keep being told there's State of the Nation novels, and I read them and I go, it feels like a State of London novel. And I think actually in crime you can tell State of the Nation novels. You can talk about how we live, and you can talk about different parts of the country, and you can talk about different substrata. So for me, the stricture of it is actually incredibly freeing, and I think that's why so many writers love to read it, and so many writers love to write it.
Did you set out to write crime, or was that just what your characters ended up being involved in?
I mean, it's what I read, and you must always write a book that you would be desperate to read. So that's what I've tried to do. And I'm from my grandfather was a police officer. I've grown up obsessed with crime. I love all that sort of thing. But yeah, it's what I read, and I like the impetus that it gives to a story. But as I say, the plot is always fetishized in crime, and actually it's sort of meaningless a lot of the time. You won't remember a lot of the plots of anything you've read. There's a couple of Christies that you'll absolutely remember the plot of, but mostly in any book you read, crime or non-crime, you remember the characters, you remember how the characters made you feel, and plot is just a device to sort of let you spend a bit of time. Yeah.
How do you feel about the idea of this one being televised? Do you is there?
You go, it's fine by me.
On a broad level, sure, but the idea that characters might not look quite how you see them, that a casting director might have a different vision for somebody. Yeah,
my view is genuinely this, and from years of working in TV as well, is I only have one job, and that's to write the book. That's the format that I'm working in. And writing a novel, you're inside people's heads. You can go on little diversions. You can do so many interesting things that you can't do in screenplays, and that's what I love. So that's the version of the story that I want to write, and that's the one I'm writing. The other side of it is for other people, and if people want to take the source material, turn it into a film, turn it into a TV series, that's great, but that's their job rather than my job, if that makes sense. I'm happy to hand it over and to let them have their go at it.
Do you write visually?
No, I sort of write from inside the characters' hearts, if that makes sense. I'm always thinking, how is that my character feeling in this situation? I always try and give voice to that. So no, I have very, very poor eyesight. I'm very visually impaired, so I don't. When people say he had a slight twitch above his left eyebrow, you think, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen that. The only note I ever get back from the editors is, what does this person look like?
Right,
and I'm like,
sure.
I don't know, some guy. I don't think about it. I think about who they are and what they say, and I'm very vibes based in that regard.
Do you get feedback from readers that makes you think about your stories in a different way? Because they've been so beloved, they've struck so many chords. Do you fully understand all the chords they've struck?
No, and that's the nice thing about it, because books, the book exists for me as one thing and exists for readers as different things. So I write about grief, I've written a lot about dementia, I write a lot about loss, and different people would experience that in different ways because their life experience is different. And when you have the Thursday Murder Club, and you've got an ex-spy and an ex-nurse and an ex-psychiatrist and a trades union activist, everyone has different amounts of those people in them. So to every single person, it's a slightly different book. And so I love it when people tell me that they're an Elizabeth or they're a Ron. But it's the idea is you write a book, you write a world, and people find their place in it. And it's nice that people are finding different places in this world.
Right. Well, look, you've you revolutionised the quiz genre with Pointless.
I tried to.
You've revolutionised the crime novel genre with the Thursday Murder Club. I know you plan to keep writing novels forever,
Yes.
but is there any way we can persuade you to go into healthcare or clean energy production? Or
My God, can you imagine? It's listen. I like to have a blank piece of paper and a problem. That's my favourite thing in the world. But it's hard to imagine why anybody is going into politics anymore because of the way they're treated and the way we treat them in our culture. So it's very, very hard to think of a reason why anybody would go into that world at the moment, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh God, yes. I mean, not just at the moment. Ever.
Yeah.
I've been enormously enjoying your podcast. The rest is entertainment.
Oh, thank you.
Do you, with your finger in so many pies, you're sometimes a bit nervous about doing that because you've got to talk about people who you're going to be, for example, selling a televised novel adaptation to.
No, it's the only reason I do that podcast is there's almost nothing I'm an expert in. I'm an expert in two things: television, because I've done it my whole life, and probably the World Snooker Championships. And those are the only two things I feel qualified to talk about. And so I just thought, well, I would love to do that because it's fun just to sit down and talk. I enjoy doing that. And I knew Marina Hyde knew about worlds I didn't know about, the world of journalism, film, scripted TV. And when she said that she would do it as well, I thought, well, that's fine. We'll just meet up once a week and chat about things. And then it becomes, it's insanely huge. It's genuinely, very little really takes me by surprise, but that has taken me by surprise. But it's because people don't understand quite how important television is to people, and quite how and the media relationships they have are so huge, and people just love hearing the behind the scenes gossip and that behind the scenes secrets. So it's to me it's just chatting to a friend, but it's really lovely that it has that intimacy that great radio has and podcasts have that people adore.
Yeah, it's television. It's the main thing most of us do, and we
Yeah,
very rarely
it's
acknowledge
true.
that. Before I let you go, you are of course the master quizmaster. I'm just starting as a quizmaster.
Okay,
We have Can You Get to Number 10, the quiz that runs at the end of the show. What
Gotcha.
are your tips as a quizmaster? What
As a
should I know?
quizmaster, every question, William G. Stewart, the great quizmaster, he did 15-1, said there's only two possible things. If you reveal the answer to a quiz question, you want only one of two possible responses, which is, I knew that, or, oh, I didn't know that. And so if a question is hard, it has to be interesting. And for example, instead of saying, which country in the world has the largest wheat production, you say, which Western European country has the world's largest wheat production? Because then everyone can have a guess. So you have to just make sure there's not a question that, if you have no idea, you have to be able to have a guess.
This makes me feel particularly bad for our contestant yesterday who lost on the question, what is 6 times 8? So that's a shame.
No way. Oh, that's bad.
Richard Osman, what is 6 times 8?
43. Easy. And that's why I'm not in government.
Richard Osman, thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. Good luck with the quiz.
Thank you.